Hello, I'm John Ross. From the worship of animals and animal gods to snake charmers, no culture on earth has been so completely entwined with its wildlife than that of India. And today, that very close relationship between people and wild animals continues in the mythology, religion, and everyday lives of most Indians. But what is undergoing a very rapid change is the wildlife itself.
Today, India's wild animals are sharing a land that comprises only 3% of the Earth's landmass, with 20% of the world human population. I've come here to seek out some of the most endangered species on the planet, and to find out how these animals, historically venerated in Indian culture, are now faring in the face of severe habitat encroachment.
Join me for an in-depth look at the unique wildlife of India.
India is an ancient land with a rich diversity of cultural practices. Daily life in India is closely connected with religion. Practically every facet of life, no matter how secular in appearance or function, is somehow linked with prayer and worship. And inextricably woven into the fabric of Hinduism, India's largest religion, is nature. The variety of wildlife in India has both contributed to and benefited from the complex structure of Hindu worship. 65,000 species of animals, including over 1,200 kinds of birds, and 340 types of mammals, make their home on the subcontinent of India. This abundance of flora and fauna persisted for centuries in the pre-industrial era. But the last 100 years have seen a dramatic increase in habitat encroachment and poaching. Still, it's remarkable how many animals have survived the onslaught of industrialization, considering there was little or no organized wildlife preservation in India up until the early 1970s. Undoubtedly, the Hindu religion's reverence for nature was a great help in staving off the extinction of many species. The tiger has long been worshipped as the guardian of the forest. The goddess Durga, who is a central Hindu figure of feminine strength, is usually depicted riding a tiger. Her image is found throughout homes and temples across the subcontinent. The only rival to the tiger in popularity is the elephant. The elephant god Ganesha is by far the most worshipped figure in the Hindu religion. Promoting peace, prosperity, and success, Ganesha is the god of the poor, and his image is found in every village, in private homes, businesses, and temples. Representing speed, agility, and cunning, the monkey god Hanuman is worshipped widely. In the real world, the primate bearing the monkey god's name is the Hanuman langur, a common sight in and around temples everywhere in India. The monkeys are frequently fed, and hunting them is considered taboo. It's no wonder that their numbers have remained plentiful, while other animals have dwindled. Another highly venerated animal is the cobra, associated with both Shiva, the god of destruction and creation, and the supreme god Vishnu. Cobras are frequently found in agricultural areas, where they prey on crop-damaging rodents and other pests. So farmers have long associated these snakes with a bountiful harvest. In Hindu mythology, the god of war rides on a peacock, and the peacock also takes up an important place in the Muslim story of creation. This favorable place in the Indian religion played an important role in the peacock being named the national bird of India. Today, the bird has become so abundant that semi-domesticated versions of the peafowl have spread to zoos and parks all over the world. But despite the Hindu doctrine for reverence of all living things, not every animal has been protected to the extent of the peacock. Both the tiger and the elephant have seen a drastic reduction in their numbers in recent times. The tiger population is currently less than 4,000, down from 40,000 in 1900. The elephant is continually taken from the forest and pressed into domestic service. Today, there are only an estimated 35,000 Asian elephants left in the wild. In Hindu mythology, the crocodile acts as a vehicle for the deified Ganges River, but this worship has not stopped the killing off of India's 3 crocodilian species. And perhaps no other animal has been so worshipped and at the same time so decimated as the black-buck antelope. A few decades ago, literally millions of these magnificent animals roamed the subcontinent and beyond. Today, they're extinct in neighboring Bangladesh and Pakistan, and their numbers have dwindled to a comparatively small 40,000. Only spiritual sentiment protects a remnant population of blackbuck, which is found in and around agricultural fields on the outskirts of the Little and Great Rann deserts in the state of Gujarat. Villagers believe that the blackbuck is a harbinger of precious rain and a symbol of fertility. Many also believe that the blackbuck doesn't actually feed on crops, only the weeds around them. Still, today there are massive antelope-proof fences that many farmers have erected around their crops. Further away from the fields, the very last truly wild populations can be found. The breeding season is approaching, and the adult males are in pursuit of potential mates. Their skin, which is a sandy brown through most of the year, has darkened to black because of the increasing amounts of testosterone in the bloodstream. Another male approaches. As the resident buck struts, the intruder increases his speed and urgency. Often in these confrontations to establish dominance, rather than vicious combat, intimidation is all that's necessary. Over time, with enough running and sparring, the males will sort out their social rankings, and one or two will dominate and have their choice of mates within the herd. Near the little Rann of Kutch in the state of Gujarat, India, villagers make their daily pilgrimage to a well to gather drinking water and an open reservoir in which to wash their clothes and bathe. Hauling water back to the home is a daily activity that takes up a good part of a woman's day. All across this great desert are salt-producing operations. The briny water is splashed onto the earth, where it evaporates, leaving the salt behind. This simple harvesting technique is responsible for much of the salt used by India's nearly 1 billion people. A century ago, there were cheetahs, leopards, and even lions here. Today, they're all extinct in the region, and another species is severely threatened with the same fate. Only 2,000 Indian wild ass remain on Earth, and all of them are found here in the Rann of Kutch. They, together with the Tibetan wild ass, are the only representatives of the horse family on the subcontinent of India. At full run, the animals can reach speeds of up to 28 miles per hour. Wild ass have evolved to be very tolerant of the heat. Temperatures on the Rann can soar to well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit during the hotter months of April and May. The animals tend to group together after their foals are born during the monsoon in June and July. But gradually they disperse over the year as newborns grow and become less vulnerable to predators. Grooming is a frequent social activity. Mutual nibbling often escalates to playful wrestling and biting. This activity helps to strengthen social bonds, but as with most animal play, it's also practiced for more serious interactions as adults. Young males must prepare themselves to fight for and eventually defend a harem of females. Once established as the dominant male, a stallion can maintain control of a group for up to 12 years or more. This leadership includes the benefit of exclusive breeding rights with the resident females, but also entails the responsibilities of driving away unwanted males and predators. These 3 young males rejoin the rest of the herd. As the sun sets, a young colt bleats for his mother, and the rest of the herd moves on. As it has for thousands of years, when evening approaches, the Indian wild ass moves off to its feeding grounds. But today, with natural areas depleted due to habitat destruction from agricultural encroachment and overgrazing, the animal is forced to feed primarily in the nearby agricultural fields. The farmer's crops have not only destroyed the animal's original habitat, but they have also allowed the wild ass to survive. So far, farmers have been tolerant to these nightly raids. This tolerance is the only thing that stands between the Indian wild ass and extinction. Enormous paw prints are the only sign of a large cat that passed through here in the Gir National Forest of Gujarat, India. But they're not the tracks of an Indian tiger. The Asiatic lion is the only big cat that's found here in this protected area of less than 540 square miles on the westernmost peninsula of India. A subspecies of the African lion, the Asiatic variety once ranged all across the Middle East and most of northern and central India. Now, all the wild individuals of the subspecies are confined to this one national park. The number one factor in the survival of endangered species is habitat. But habitat includes not only the physical space the animal needs, but also the food that must exist there. The largest of the lion's natural prey species is the nilgai. It's been fortunate to bear enough resemblance to domestic cattle to earn the popular name blue cow and the religious protection that goes along with it. Its numbers are increasing across India, and despite its destructive effect on crops, Hindus are reluctant to harm it. The small and graceful Chinkara gazelle prefers to stay away from human development. It evolved to live in the extreme conditions of the desert, where the human population is small. As a result of its less frequent conflict with the human population, the Chinkara has not declined as much as many species. Still, its population today is much less than it was 100 years ago. This probably does not have a major effect on the survival of the Asiatic lion. However, its numbers have decreased enough, along with those of the black buck, in the past 2 centuries to contribute to the final extinction of the cheetah in India. Late afternoon comes to Gir National Forest. About a mile away, a young male lion, less than a year old, returns to his mother and greets her in a fashion common in all big cats. Nearby, his sister lies down. Like their African cousins, these lions spend most of their time either resting or sleeping. This young female has been injured by another lion, probably during feeding. Her back is permanently crippled. In most wild animals, serious injury to one individual does not have an impact on the population as a whole. But the loss of even one Asiatic lion is significant because the subspecies is in such a precarious position. In fact, history shows that it's nearly a miracle that there are any of these lions left today. In the 1800s, hunting and habitat conversion for farming drove the Asiatic lion to extinction all across its range, except for one tiny area, the Gir Forest. And only 12 remained there by 1901. Fortunately, the area was owned by a very future-minded person, the Nawab, or governor of Junagadh. Under the Nawab's protection, the lion population of Gir began to recover. In 1948, there were over 200, and today there may be as many as 300 lions in Gir. The cheetal deer is one of the most abundant wild mammals in India, and it's a primary prey species of the world's last Asiatic lions. As both a browser and a grazer, it prefers grassland habitat that borders forested areas. Another primary prey species of the Asiatic lion is the sambar deer, the largest deer in Asia. In the sweltering heat of April, it's often found by the water's edge. Yesterday, the mother lioness took advantage of this and brought down a large male. In the late afternoon, the family returns to the carcass. In another year, the young male will leave his mother and be nomadic until he matures, and he may take over a pride of his own. The female will remain with her mother, though given her physical condition, it's doubtful if she'll survive past the age of 2 or 3. The mother lashes out, a typical behavior of all feeding lions. But having eaten her fill, she moves away. The male returns to gorge himself some more. In recent years, there has been a reduction of poaching of deer in the Gir National Forest. As a result, the lions now kill less livestock, which at one time made up almost half of their diet. The young lioness moves off, and the carcass is left to the male and the ravens. The lion can't eat anymore, so he begins to drag the carcass out of the reach of scavengers. Today, the future of the Asiatic lion is very precarious. Due to the fact that the entire population is concentrated in one area, the animals are very vulnerable. Industry and a growing human population threaten to encroach on this lion habitat. And a natural disaster or epidemic here could prove devastating. Hopefully, Asiatic lion populations will be established in other areas to increase the chances for survival for the animal in the coming years.
Today, as all nations become more and more interdependent on one another, economists have had to change their view of the world to see it as one global economy. We need to look at our wild heritage on the same scale. India's wildlife is more than just a national treasure. It's something that's important to each and every one of us on the planet as a vital part of Earth's biodiversity. And saving it will take the efforts and support of all of us. I'm John Ross. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.